Ken O'Neill with CSBN, the new network. And today we are speaking with Rob Neyer from the West Coast League and Kyle Brown of the Alaskan League. And we're going to be talking about the Major League Baseball reorganization. And according to the Major League Baseball reorganization, about 36 cities and 22 states with affiliated minor league teams will lose their teams a year from now. How does that affect the Alaskan League? Does it affect it at all?
I think it's going to affect the Alaskan League a little bit because you're going to have less players drafted out of the Division I level. And so you're going to have more players probably want to stay more locally to where their families or colleges are at, to stay home knowing that they're not going to move on to the draft. As far as the Alaskan League, I mean, we don't have affiliated baseball. We don't have any major sports programs or organizations up there. So we're still going to get our players. But as far as the top tier guys, they might want to go to an MLB workout or showcase circuit instead of going to play summer ball to try and get a free agent sign in those regards. But I think it's going to have a more significant impact than we even realize right now.
And Rob, of the West Coast League, now how will it affect you a little differently because you're affiliated with some of the teams, correct? Major League.
No, we aren't. We're completely unaffiliated, just like the Alaska League. For me, the most obvious significant change would simply be the amount of talent that would be available to summer collegiate leagues, simply because with fewer players drafted, you're going to have a few more highly talented college freshmen who didn't get drafted and decide to go to college instead. And you'll also have a fair number of juniors who don't get drafted and would have been drafted otherwise. And they'll be looking for somewhere to play. So, the overall level of talent in the summer collegiate leagues, I think, almost has to go up.
Now, do you see any teams going to be new teams coming into your league, Rob?
Well, I think that, yes, that seems to me a pretty good possibility if this contraction of the minor leagues goes ahead exactly as planned. I don't have an official stance on this, but it seems obvious to me that if you believe the list that was released, which included Salem Kaiser, Oregon, and the Tri-Cities area in Washington, both of those cities would be fantastic homes for collegiate summer baseball or independent minor league baseball. I think certainly if all this comes to pass, you would see some collegiate summer leagues expanding into those markets.
Now, according to the list that we have, they said that they could have a dream league.
Right.
Is that something, Kyle, that they might do up there in Alaska?
I mean, logistically, there's really only one stadium that could handle that, and that'd be Mulcahy in downtown Anchorage. But for me, the issue is going to be travel costs. Flying up 25 players, plus the trainers, plus all the personnel, the staff, the radio people, everything that goes into a team travel. I don't really see the ABL expanding to another team. Our league, every single team in our league is also nonprofit. So that does play a huge issue or factor into our league's expansions.
And Kyle, what do you think about, do you think the reorganization is good for baseball?
To me, it's out of necessity. I think that baseball has gotten so advanced in the metrics and the biomechanics with their camera systems that they can kind of weed out, the diamonds in the rough a little bit better now, where they feel that through their analytical department, through their scouting, they can really hone in, and they feel they only need 20, 25 drafts to pick the top talent throughout the country. This is just them trying to turn a new page and figure it out. But I'll go again and say that the repercussions of it are going to be big. I mean, the more kids that go undrafted, it's gonna have a trickle-down effect. I'm going to be curious to see where the boom is. Is it going to be more Division II? Is it going to be NAIA? And then what is that going to do? Like all summer ball leagues are going after the top-tier Division I players. But you have good players at Division II, NAIA, junior college, and you might even see the resurrection of junior college across the board as well. So it'll be an interesting play.
Go ahead, Rob.
I will say that the largest criticism that I've seen, or I should say the most compelling criticism I think I've seen, is that you are essentially taking baseball away from a few dozen cities that have had it and that have been creating baseball fans. And it's difficult to see how subtracting baseball from dozens of cities and towns is good for the game in the long term. But again, what is usually left out of that argument is that, at least in my opinion, the majority, probably the great majority of those same cities and towns that presumably lose minor league baseball will gain some other sort of baseball. I'll just give you an example. I mean, we see it in the summer collegiate baseball everywhere. 3 or 4 of our cities in my league were not all that long ago minor league cities. The minor leagues left these cities and others in our league for various reasons. Wenatchee is another one. But now there is baseball there. And baseball fans are being created in all of these places. And my guess is the same thing will happen in most of the places that lose baseball, if they do.
To change the subject just a bit, everybody's heard now, I would imagine everybody's heard about the scandal now with the Houston 2 people getting fired. Boston, they got rid of them. What is your opinion? Do you think do you think the punishments are going to be appropriate? What do you think about that with this cheating?
I mean, obviously, the Red Sox went ahead and got ahead of it by mutually parting ways with Mr. Cora. I think Pete Rose said it best. I mean, it has tainted the game. It's a whole new black mark on the game. The excitement's back in the game, and now all of a sudden, you get this black mark. The suspension for 1 year, do I think that was enough? No. I still have yet to see what MLB is going to do to Mr. Cora. But we all know having the camera system and in the computer room where coaches can go in or communication can be relayed to players, that's 100% an unfair advantage. And for me right now, I don't know about a lifetime ban, but if Pete Rose got that for gambling on his own team to win, then I think something in that light should be in order as well.
And Rob, do you think that it's that type of cheating is widespread? You think that other clubs are doing the same thing? They just haven't got caught?
I think that many teams have explored their options. I would, in a sense, liken this to the steroids scandal. I believe that probably the majority of players in that particular era, the late 90s, early 2000s, basically, at least dabbled in steroids. I don't know that a huge percentage were habitual, systematic users, but I think that most people dabbled because that was part of the culture. And I suspect that something like that now with sign stealing, where it's become a part of the culture. We've already seen multiple teams get caught. We know there must be teams that didn't get caught. We know there's an immense amount of technology in these ballparks. And then you throw the Apple Watches into the equation, and you're going to have people in these organizations, whether it's players or front office staff or coaches, who are looking for edges. It's always been that way. Sign stealing has been around. Electronic sign stealing has been around for more than a century. I think that the punishment, it's impossible to say it was the perfectly appropriate punishment or punishments. It seemed to me it did send a pretty strong message. Nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to get fired. And while I've seen it, I read somewhere that $5 million isn't a lot of money. It is and it isn't. It isn't in the sense that to Jim Crane, the Astros owner, $5 million doesn't make much of a difference for his lifestyle or how he runs his team. At the same time, one of the reasons that we're told that the minor leagues must be contracted is to save money. And I guarantee you nobody's going to save $5 million when they contract their farm system by a team and cut down the draft picks by 15 or 20 every year. So $5 million is a lot in some ways. I think aside from the deterrence, you've also got to introduce some measures to make it much more difficult to steal signs, have more league personnel on hand, maybe keep the iPads out of the dugout. I saw a list this morning. There are a million things you could do to try to cut down the possibilities. But I guarantee you, this season, next season, every single season there is ever baseball, there will be people working for the teams trying to steal signs and do other things.
Well, that's certainly true. Now, and again, this has nothing to do with this, but I'm going to ask you both this same question. The Dodgers, Kyle, which is your team, during the World Series, they at one game they left 4 people out of the lineup, the top home run hitters, because of analytically, supposedly they weren't supposed to be in that game, analytically speaking. What is your opinion about this is for Kyle and for Rob, but we'll go with Kyle first. What is your opinion of analytics taking over as far as managers are using analytics as opposed to gut feelings? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, when I was playing, which is 2008 to 2010, I was playing, and we didn't have analytics, we didn't have all the new stuff that they have nowadays. I like the analytics. I think it helps you in your pregame preparation, but at the same point in time, they tend to take out the human element. What happens off the field with that player? Did he get a good night's sleep? Did he have proper nutrition? Dehydrate? There's so many different factors where they just feel the computer knows best, and you take away that human element. And I mean, that's what makes the game so great, is that human element where you're going to have those unsung heroes, the guys that you don't even hear about in the regular season. All of a sudden, they're the heroes of the postseason. They're the World Series MVPs, all those different types of stories. And if it was up to the computer, those guys wouldn't even play. You got to understand, when a guy's swinging a hot bat, it shouldn't matter if he's facing the lefty or righty. He's seeing the ball well. And that's, as a manager, that's what you need to go off of, is that the clubhouse interaction that you have with the players before the game. You're going to know by the way that guy walks into the clubhouse or not, whether he's feeling confident or not. And I think you have to be able to balance both of those as being today's manager.
And Rob, do you have an opinion, I assume?
Well, I have way too many opinions. I would say just a couple things quickly. One, analytics sort of is used to describe this vast body of knowledge or research, but it isn't as if everyone's using analytics to come up with the same answers. Teams come up with different answers every day for any number of things, including how to value players and who belongs in the lineup today and who doesn't. And speaking specifically to Kyle's point, which I don't really disagree with, the best managers today are the ones who can put all that together. You want someone who understands the nuances of the game, has seen 1,000 baseball games or thousands of baseball games, but also is not afraid of the numbers and is willing to study, listen to his analytics guys, listen to his players. When you talk to the players, they're all for it. But some guys want to spend 2 hours a day looking at it. Some guys want to spend 5 minutes. But if you're not using it at all, you're going to have a tough time winning.
Okay, one final question for both of you, and that's they talk about what happens in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. And they were giving this guy Filer, they were calling him a snitch and everything because he brought this up. What do you think about that? Do you think everything should stay in the clubhouse?
Well, Kyle's the authority here. I don't know that cheating qualifies as look, if you're Mike Fiers and you're on your team, do you go out and say anything? No, absolutely not. It's never happened in the history of the game. There was a player back in the early 60s who basically demanded to be released because his team was sign stealing, and he said that his Christian beliefs did not allow him to participate, and he was traded. But essentially, it's never happened, and I wouldn't expect any player to go public with something like this regarding his teammates. But with Mike Fiers, when he's with a different team and they're using the sign stealing against him, of course, why not? That's the problem with these schemes. With all the player movement, how long can you really keep it a secret?
That's exactly what happened. Exactly. And Kyle, you're the expert.
Well, just like how Rob had touched on, you're having the player movement as well, where you're not going to be able to keep a secret very long. And for me, ethically and morally, everything else, cheating obviously is wrong. Any way you cut it. If I'm playing my opponent, I want us to be on the same playing field. So I know when I beat you or you beat me, I had you at your best and you had me at my best. That's what fair competition's about. That's why we play the game. But what you're seeing as well is you're seeing the player movement, and Friars comes out, and obviously that's why players around the league knew what the Astros were doing. It was a lot of hearsay. We'll just put it that way. But now you're also having front offices that move around. What was it? The Cardinals that got hacked.
Yes,
Or the
yes.
Cardinals that did the hacking. But then also, the Astros have had a lot of success, and they were kind of the forefront in their analytical department, their R&D. And then you saw, Elias? He's now the general manager at the Baltimore Orioles. So you're going to see a lot of front office moves. So no matter what you're doing, the trade secrets are always going to get out. That's why if you do your job well, you're going to get a promotion with a different organization, and that way that organization is going to know what you were doing before. And that's how the game is going to keep improving and building off each other. But, cheating scandals and everything out, that's not the answer. I mean, I understand there's a lot of money at stake. You're trying to win. But at the same point in time, you got to do it ethically correct, or else it's going to get out.
Well, listen, gentlemen, thank you very much for talking with us. Kyle, if you will hang on for a few minutes, we'll talk about tomorrow. Okay. And Rob, I will talk to you hopefully soon.
You bet. That sounds great. Kyle, great to see you. Take care.
Thanks,
Rob. You too, Rob. Thanks.
This has been Commissioner's Corner on CSBN, your go-to source for collegiate summer baseball. I'm Ken O'Neill. See you next week.